input, how we can manage the input. Generally, JavaScript input methods, usually we have two options. One is prompt. So another one, we can use form input elements. Right. So we can use the prompt and form input elements. So by using prompt and input elements, you can manage the input. In your applications, you can manage the input technically. So how these options are used for handling input, we will see. Yesterday we saw output, various methods for output, and how we can manage input. So what are the options for input? Let's see. Generally, we can manage the input. So here I'm writing a script. So just write a function and F1. So we can manage the input by using prompt. We can use prompt. Actually, prompt allows you to input a value. Prompt will display a input box. So we can enter the name, enter name. Suppose we are defining. And if you want any value, you can put some default value here. So your name, something like this. So your name, something like this we define. This is prompt. So prompt is just like a input box. It pops up and allows the user to enter some value. So by using prompt, you can input value. And this value you can store. You can see that when I run this, you can see a prompt will come. Prompt is actually an input box actually. So by default, if you want some value, you can keep that value here. So if I remove this, then it will just show that enter name. So it will just show that enter name. We can keep some value by default into it. It allows the user to input a value. Now, whatever value you input, so it should be stored. So I will use some username is equal to that value. So that means the prompt value will be stored in username. But here we have three options actually. Three options are nothing but prompt actually it will return true. It will return true. It will return true when click OK. When click OK. It will return false when click cancel. True, false. Actually, that is confirm. You saw that yesterday. Confirm, you saw that, right? Confirm. Confirm, so you saw that it returns true or false when you click OK and cancel. But when you are using prompt, there are several situations actually. In the prompt box, you see you have OK. So when you click OK, so without value, then, so when you click OK without value, then it will return empty. So if you click OK with value, then it will return that value. If you click cancel, then prompt will return null. It will return null. So we have to verify these three options actually. So prompt will return null if you are not entering any value. So here username contains the value you entered into it. But if you are not entering value, you click OK without name, then it will be empty. If you click cancel with name or without name, it is null actually. So we have to verify that. So here I am verifying. Username is equal to empty. Then I will put a message document.write name cannot be empty. name cannot be empty. This message we are displaying. Name cannot be empty. This message we are displaying. And here else if another condition, if username is equal to null. If username is equal to null, null is just keyword. If it is equal to null, document dot write. So you cancelled. So you cancelled. That message should come. Otherwise, if it is not empty and not null, that means there is some value. Then we will print document dot write hello and that particular username. So that username, whatever username they have entered, it should display that username. So prompt is an input control, and prompt input control will allow three options. Will handle three options: empty, value, and null. So we are writing conditions for all of three options. Now, when I run this here, you can see here, when I run this, when I click OK without entering name, then it says name cannot be empty. Okay. When I click cancel, so then it says you cancel. And when I enter some name and click OK, then it says hello John. So this is general how you manage. So we can use an input box, that is prompt. Prompt allows to input some value. Without entering name, you click OK, then it is name cannot be empty. And you click cancel, then it says you cancel. So with the name you cancelled, then also same. You entered some name and click OK, that name will be collected. That is one option how you can allow input. How you can manage the input. So this is the way how we can handle the input. So prompt is one option for input. But generally, we want complex input, like I want the user to select from a drop down. I want the user to select from a radio button, from a checkbox. In that case, generally what we have to do is we have to use form elements. We can use form input elements. By using form input elements, we can allow the input. How to use the form input elements? Let's see. One method, prompt. Okay, another method is form input elements. We can use the form input elements. Let's see how to use form input elements. So I will design a simple doc type HTML head and here title as input. Let's link relation is equal to style sheet, href, node modules, bootstrap this css, bootstrap.css. Okay. So that is one option we have designed. Now, generally, we can use several things. Whatever you learned in Bootstrap, you can implement that. And you can use that in the presentations and all. So for example, see here, I will link script source is equal to. So node modules, jQuery, dist, jQuery.js. We already learned Bootstrap, and I will link another script source is equal to. So node modules, Bootstrap, dist, JS, Bootstrap bundle.js. So you know all these scripts are required for using the proper Bootstrap, and here we are writing the body section and a class as container fluid, and here we have a div, and here I will just put a class as box. In this we are designing a form. We are designing a form. And in the form, we will keep a div and class as form group. Already we learned about how to design form controls, and we will put a label here. So suppose a name, and under that we have a div input type is equal to text, and it should need an ID txt name, ID for accessing it, right? And we will have a class form control. Okay, and this is one container, this is one category, and I will use another div. This is form group. Already we discussed how to design form groups and form controls, right? And here we have a label, and this is price, and a div, and we have input type is equal to text, ID txt price. Okay, and class as form control. Okay, this is another div. So we have another div. So this is class as form group, and here we will use some shipped to, and here we need to give a select. That means a div, we will put a select. Select is a drop down, and in the drop down we are having an ID LST cities. Okay, and class as form control. This is also form control, and we have an option. So that is Delhi, and we have an option for Hyderabad. Okay, and these options, several you can maintain. Option have a value, so Delhi, and this option have a value Hyderabad. Okay, that is shipped to. Okay, and another div. So we have a class as form group, and this is checkbox. So that means label. So in stock, and here we will put a div, and we will keep here input type is equal to checkbox, and here we have ID as OPT stock, that is the option, and a class as a form check input. Form check input is the option for it, and here I will say yes. I will write its ID is OPT stock. Okay, and let's create. So that is the div. Okay, another div, and we can have a lot of other controls also. Form group. In various examples we will see. I will keep a button here. Button say register, and let's keep the class as btn and btn primary and btn block. Okay, actually this is the design. This is the screen that we have designed. So this is the screen that we have designed. So that is the screen we designed. Okay, now for the checkbox I will remove, because is inline is okay. Currently we don't want any inline checkbox, so that is fine. Okay, now here, so what we are doing is we are adding some styles here. I will keep a style, and the label I said some font weight as bold. Okay, label keeps the font weight bold, and the box class will have the width as some 300 pixels, and justify content to center, and content to center, and align items to center, and margin auto. So margin auto. So this will keep this here like this, and at the top here I will keep a heading. So register product, and class as text primary and text center. Okay, this will give this register product. Okay, now this is the form that we have designed with all the bootstrap. Now from these controls we can accept input from the user. So there are several controls. One is a text box, another one is a drop down, another checkbox. And when user clicks register, I need to collect all the details that user inputs, and I want to use those details. We need to collect all the details. That means we are accepting input by using form. We can accept input by using prompt. That was the previous one we have seen. Now we can accept input from the form elements. So we can accept from the form elements. And you can use these values and present the values. Then what we will do now here is below this box. So inside the div, I will create another div and I will put a class called model. I will use model. So, and this is ID. ID is summary. ID is summary. That is the summary for that model. So I'm just giving ID as summary. Now we know how to design a model. So I will create a div here. And the model can have the option like fade. Model can fade. So it have the option fade. So we learned already how to design the model. So it will use the class. So model. So model have the options like model content. So model dialog. First we have to design a model dialog. In that we have to use a model content. So model content. In the model content, we have a div and we have a class called model header. So we have a model header. And here we need to enter the heading. So the product details in the model we are designing it. And this model have product details and let's keep here. So a button, so is class as close. Close is the button class for that. And here we have a div, and in that class we have model body. In this model body, I want to display the details that user entered in a table form, suppose. So table have a class called table. Okay. And here we are defining table hover. Table hover is the class. That is the class for the table, and we have a T head. We don't have heading, directly row. In that we have a cell. So this is for name. Okay, another cell. Here we want to display the name. And to display the name in this cell, we need to access that second cell. Then that cell have an ID, LBL name. So that label like. Similarly, another row. So we have price. I want to display the price below here. So ID as LBL price. And another row. So here we want as suppose shipped to, and we need to define here. So in the cell ID as LBL city, LBL city. And one more. So here we need to define stock and data definition table cell. Here we need to define so ID as LBL stock. Okay. Now this is the model actually. In this model, this is the model body. Okay. And we have a div and we have a class model footer. I don't need to explain what is a model and how to design because already we learned. We are using it now. I will put a button as some OK. So class as BTN and BTN primary. So that is the OK. Okay. Now usually this should display when user clicks the register button. On register button, I need to display the model. Then here we have to use button should use so data target. Data target is equal to, it has to access summary. Data target is summary. This is summary. It should access this summary model. And data toggle. So it should toggle model. It should toggle the model. So these are the two things we have to mention. That means on the button click, it will target that summary and it will toggle the model. So that is the basic design here. That means I click on register, a model should come and it should display. And here, usually the pop-up will come and display. And where to display, how to display, these options are also important for us. Means the content and design of the content are also important for us. So generally, so the model has a lot of options to configure. Already, if you remembered, so we used these models in Bootstrap. Right, let's go to that Bootstrap example. So we designed a model, alerts, forms, input, margin, table, where we used it. In some example, I think I showed you the models, right? Kept the example, CSS examples, models. Fine, somewhere we have that. So, but already we discussed this model. No? I showed you the model options, how to design them. Alerts. So, and yeah, in the navigation bar, toolbars, I think we designed in the somewhere. Yeah, here we designed this model, right? This is the model, right? That means here we have designed a model and how we can handle the model. So you have the models. So model have the options. So this example, if you see, already we done that. We have this model, and actually this model should fire up. This model should fire up in different occasions we have seen. On button click, then it should use data target and data toggle. So options, that means how to open it, these models. So on link, we have to use data toggle. So, but if you are using on button, then you have to use data target. So that is the basic approach we have to handle. This example already we designed earlier. So when user clicks on login and a login option will come. This we already designed. Now the same here we have to handle. So here somewhere we missed that logic there. Some problem is there. The model is not displayed. So model have a div where we kept this model also important. I hope this is kept outside this div only, na? Right. So outside the box. So we are keeping this model. ID is a summary. Data target is summary and data toggle is model. That's fine. Somewhere it is not displaying. Outside the form, right? You need to keep it here only, right? Just check where it is placed. It is model. Our scripts are correctly defined. So jQuery is there, and Bootstrap bundle also is there. Where is this model displayed?
ସେ ଆବା ଇଟା ବା ଖୋଳା ହଉଛି
header, body, and the footer. Let's create a simple first here. I will cut this, all the logic. I will keep it here. Somewhere we misplaced the content, right? So we will put a div. So roughly here, class as yeah, okay, this is submit button working. That may be the problem. Okay, we will do one thing. So actually this button is inside the form. So it is working like a submit button. We will keep this button type as button. So that means it is working like a submit button inside the form. Actually, submit button inside the form will submit the form actually. It will submit the form. So now it is fine. Okay, that is the problem, right? So it is working like a submit button. That is the problem. We changed it. Why? Because submit button, by default, button is submit button. Submit button submits the form data. You kept in a form now, and it submits the form data and again loads the same page after submitting. That is the reason we are unable to see that model. So it should not work like a submit button. We will write the functionality manually. So we will change the button type as button. Okay, so button type as button, that will be better. If you are not designing a form, it's okay. If you are designing a form, inside the form, if you keep any button, so it will work like a submit button. Make sure that it is an ordinary button. Okay, rest of options are everything same, and you know how to close this. This close should work. So we have to just use data dismiss. So data dismiss, it has to dismiss model. It should dismiss model. The same should work for the OK button at the bottom also. We have to use data dismiss as model. So that is data dismiss model. And when you click here on the register, then it shows this. And in the product details, name, price, shipped and all, and click OK, then it will be done. So that is the model, right? So that is the model. So we have designed. So to keep a slight animated, so we use fade also. So slightly animated, we will use fade, then it will give like a fade effect like this. Okay, slightly animated. Now when user clicks on this register button, I need to collect the details they have entered inside these controls, and we need to display in this table. That means how to collect the details from these controls. For every control, we already given a proper ID so that we can access them by using ID. Okay. Where to display? We have to display in the table cells. The table cells also have ID. So we have that ID slot. So up to name, price, ship to no problem. But in stock depends on whether they checked or not. That means dynamically we have to verify whether that value checked or not. So if checked, then it should display one value. If not checked, another value. So we need a little condition for that. First, we will collect all the other details and see here. So now when register button is clicked, already model is coming. Along with that, some more functionality should happen on button click. Then what we will do is, so for this button, we have register button. This is the register button. For register button, we will write an event on click. On click is equal to, so register click. You can give any name. Okay. So we need to write a function register click. So let's go to the head section. And here we are writing a script. So the function is register click. This function will fire up when user clicks the register button. Now I need to collect the value they entered in text box, that means txt name. This value we need to collect and display in this first cell. We need to display in LBL name. So how to access this LBL name? So we have to use the same technique we learned, document dot get element by ID LBL name. So this is accessing table cell. And in table cell, if you want to display anything, we have to use inner HTML or inner text. Without formats, then you can use inner text. With formats, inner HTML. So in table cell, what value you want to display? So I want to display the value coming from text box. How to collect it? Document get element by ID txt name. Txt name is a text box. So text box, whatever you enter inside it is accessed by using value. That means txt name dot value. That means it will access the value entered inside the text box. Remember, whether to use inner HTML, whether to use value, whether to use src, whether to use href, depends on which type of element you are referring to. You know the HTML elements and their attributes. You need to manage accordingly. So here txt name is a text box, then text box value is accessed with value. Same. I have to use same document dot get element by ID. So LBL price dot inner text is equal to document get element by ID txt price dot value. The value present inside the price text box. Now we have another document get element by ID LBL city dot inner text. Here I want to display the value coming from drop down, and drop down also you can access same document get element by ID LST city. So you can see here what is the ID given for the drop down ID LST cities. You should be careful in that. LST cities, sorry, LBL city only, but here accessing from LST cities dot value. That means it will collect the value of the option that you have selected in drop down. In drop down, which value you selected, it will collect that value and it will display. Now these are simple. Observe carefully up to this. Now I entered name, I entered some price, I selected ship to. I haven't written any logic for in stock yet. Currently we written only these three, and click on register. Those details are collected and displayed here. That means we are accessing the details and we are displaying the details. We are configuring and displaying the details. So we can access the details and display the details in another page also. So that we will learn in later stage how we can manage these options, right? Initially, this is the approach. That means how you can configure. So we can access and this. In stock details, we need a condition actually. That means stock details, we need a condition. So what's the condition here is, first we need to access the checkbox. We need to first access this checkbox. Checkbox ID is OPT stock. So how we will do is, here we will use some stock. So stock is a variable. So document get element by ID. So here OPT stock. It is accessing checkbox. Now this stock is referring to checkbox. It is referring to checkbox. Okay. And I will declare another status. Status is a message. I will keep it empty. Later we are going to learn variables, declarations and all. Currently stock is one variable where you are referring to checkbox. Status is just an empty string. Okay. Now here we need to write the condition. If stock dot checked, checked is a property present for checkbox. It will return true if it is selected. So you can check like equal to true, but by default it returns true. That is the reason checked is enough. If stock dot checked, that means if the checkbox is checked, then status message should be available. Available should be the message. If not checked, then status message, else status message will be out of stock. That's how we have to verify. That means we need to verify whether it is checked or not. If checked, then status will be available. If not checked, then status will be out of stock. It will display out of stock. So it will display out of stock. So that is the option how it manages. So generally now you can see that. So this status contains the message which we will display inside this cell, last cell, LBL stock. Now get that LBL stock and use it. That means document get element by ID, LBL stock dot inner text or inner HTML, inner text. In that stock, we want to display status message. Whatever the status message is there, it will display. That status message we will display there. So that means now depending on the checkbox, it will change. You can see here, I'm entering some Nike casuals. I entered some price. I selected ship to, and I clicked in stock, yes, and I registered and it says available. It will access the details and display. So suppose I said I remove that in stock and see it says out of stock. I'm changing the city like Delhi and say it gets the details and display the detail. So I'm selecting this and it says available. So this is the general basic approach how we can handle the input. So input allows the user to input a value and we can collect the value and use the value for the manipulations. Now, how you can access input from the user? You can use a prompt, but prompt is very simple. It is only for just plain content like text, number, like things you can access from there. But if you want a complex input, then you can even use date time pickers also. For example, suppose see here, I'm adding one more option here. I am adding one more div here, another div. So, and here we have a class as form group, and we have a label as manufactured. And manufactured, so we have a div and the input type is equal to date. We know already date and other options here. And ID is equal to txt mfd, that is the manufactured. And the class, so class as form control. I'm using the class as a form control. The class as form control. Okay, that is manufactured. So manufactured. Now, technically, now here, we need to collect the detail and display that manufactured also. And I will keep some cell here. So another row. In that we have a manufactured. And here I will put a cell ID as LBL MFD. Okay. Now I need to access the detail and display the detail here. I need to access and display the detail here. So then it is also the same. So document dot get element by ID, LBL MFD dot inner text is equal to document get element by ID, txt mfd dot value. So date time is also a value. Anything you want to collect from text box, radio, check box, password boxes, everything is value. We need to access the value. And you can see now this is also ready. Now we have the name to enter. So we have the price to enter and we have city and we have manufactured date selected. So manufactured date selected. Okay, some manufactured date selected, and we selected in stock, and we clicked on register, and the details will come. Details will come. And you know how to display the dates we will discuss in JavaScript. Dates can be displayed in several ways. Date can be accessed in several ways. So by default, it is getting the same value and displaying. Working with the dates, showing the dates in your own style formats. So these things we will learn in JavaScript now when we learn the data types and all. Initially, just we are collecting the value they have entered, but we don't want to display it the same way. We want to display in different formats, which you can do once you know about the data types and handling with different types of data here. So this is the general approach how we can design. So this is the basic of how we can handle input in JavaScript, how we can manage input in JavaScript. So we have two options. We can use prompt, that is for simple one line input. If you want to accept from the user, you can accept a number also, you can accept string or symbol or any input. But if you want to design a complex screen for handling input from various options, so that user can select one or multiple radios checkbox, we will see radios and others also in different other examples. So here, so we are using some form elements for handling the input. Concept is very simple. Collect the element ID and its value and display wherever you want. I'm currently displaying table cell. You can display in paragraph, data definitions, anywhere you want. So this is how you manage input in JavaScript. So we have learned two options, how JavaScript handles the output and how JavaScript handles the input activities, how we can manage input and output. So what are the concepts you have seen here? What are the concepts you have learned here is, so how JavaScript is integrated into HTML, inline JavaScript, embedded JavaScript, and external file. Secondary, you have learned how JavaScript refers HTML. That means DOM hierarchy, element by ID, element by tag name, element by class name, different methods of accessing, and how it manages input and output activities. So how you can accept the input, how we can handle the input and manage the input. Now, once you know this, the next important, now we have to know the JavaScript language basics. We have to learn the JavaScript language basics. By learning these language basics, we can do more with the presentations and interactions that we create actually. So what are those language basics? What you have to learn in the language basics? Let's see. Generally, any programming language, so the language basics usually contains the topics like variables, like data types, so like operators, and statements. These are the general basics of language. Later, you will see JavaScript, object-oriented programming, OOP concepts, and how these are options are used. So in JavaScript, you have to learn the language basics first. The first point is in the language basics, we need to know, so the variables and data types. Technically, variables are nothing but variables are simply storage locations in memory, where you can store a value and use that value as a part of any expression. So generally, variables are storage locations in memory where you can store a value and use that value so in any expression. Now the point is actually in JavaScript, uh, variables, configuring variables contains configuring variables. Variables comprises of three stages actually. Configuring variable comprises of three stages. So configuring variable contains three stages. What are those? See, generally, so I have used, like just now I showed you prompt. I showed you prompt. So, or I am using document dot get element by ID, get element by ID, and I am accessing txt name and value. Now, after accessing the value, where to store this value? We need to store that value. So if I can store the value, I can use the value for later. I need to store the value. Somewhere I need to store the value. That means actually we need to store the value in the memory, and we need a reference. We said suppose name, product name. So this is a variable. This is a variable. And in the variable, you are storing this value so that you can access and use it anytime. But important, actually, the variable configuration contains three stages actually. One is, so var, so product name, so product name. And so product name is equal to, so some document or some value like Samsung TV, like this, or you can get it from a text box and use. There is another method where product name is equal to Samsung TV. So there are three ways of writing this actually. So remember this point here. So generally, the first step, the first thing. So this is called declaration. This is called declaration. Variable declaration. This is called variable declaration. This is called declaration. And after declaring, you are sending some value into that variable. You are sending some value into that variable. Generally, while learning a language, when you are learning any language, many people, so at learning level, they call this as initializing value. So they call this as initializing value. Wrong. It's not initializing value. It is assigning or rendering value. Assign or rendering value. It is not initialization. Remember, initialization means, remember this point, in any programming language, initialization is, initialization means at the time of declaring a variable, if you pass a value into it, that is called initialization. After declaring variable, you are passing value later. Not initialization. That is called assigning or rendering. So first, you have to know the difference between what is declaration, what is rendering or assigning, and what is initialization. Many people who learn languages, Java, .NET, C, C++, and all, they call this as initialization. That is wrong. This is not initializing value. This is assigning value. Because initialization means at the time of declaring, you have to send some value. At the time of declaring, I am not sending any value. That means it is only declaration. After declaration, you are sending some value. That is called assign. But at the time of declaring, you are sending some value. That is called initialization. That is called initialization. So you should know a proper difference between what is declaration, what is assigning, and what is initialization. Because this is very important to understand our next concept. So variables have three stages. Variables are declared, variables are rendered, and variables are initialized. But the important concept is, so that means three stages are there. One is declaration. Second one is rendering or assigning. Third one is initialization. We have three things. Now, important is generally JavaScript allows variables to directly render value. to directly render value without declaring. It allows variables to directly render value without declaring. If it is not in strict mode, So I told you JavaScript will be in strict mode. If JavaScript is not in strict mode, then declaring variables is not mandatory. So without declaring the variables, you can use the variables. Directly, you can render a value. I will show you that. That means here, suppose I am defining. So here I am configuring the value in this way. So we have a script. I directly define some function f1, okay, and the function call, okay. Here I am using x equal to 10. So and document dot write x is equal to plus x, whatever the value of x is. Here I am not declaring x. This is not declaring, this is actually rendering, or you call assigning. Without declaring, you are directly rendering some value into it. It is okay. It is possible. You run this and see it is working. X equal to 10 is working. But it will work only when JavaScript is not in strict mode. How to put JavaScript in strict mode? Use strict. We have to write use strict. It will keep JavaScript in strict mode. When JavaScript is in strict mode, without declaring variable, you cannot use it. And you see that. So it is not working. And I will go to inspect and go to console. In the console, you can see the errors. And it says that X is not defined. So because variables need to be declared generally in strict mode, but JavaScript allows to use variables without declaration also. Now here you see how to declare variable. I am writing var x. This is declaring. So we are declaring variable. This is declaring variable. When you declare the variable and it is working fine now, variable need to be declared. So now if anyone asks like, is declaring variable mandatory or not? In JavaScript, declaring variable is not mandatory if it is not in strict mode. But if it is in strict mode, declaring variable is mandatory. You have to declare variable. And how to declare variable? We can declare variable or you can initialize. What is meant by initializing? So suppose we are writing like this. So where y is equal to 20. This is called initialization. This is called initialization. After initialization, if y is equal to 30, this is rendering again. Or you are saying assigning again. Initialization means at the time of declaring, you are sending some value. That is called initialization. So we have declaration, we have rendering, and we have initialization. And suppose I am printing that here. So that means I will put here BR. So plus BR. So break. And I am printing y is equal to. So suppose y is equal to plus y. And it will print both x and y values. It will get that x and y values. So here the point is declaring and rendering and initialization. 3 options are there. Variable declaration is mandatory if JavaScript is in strict mode. Then how to declare variables? JavaScript variables are declared by using 3 keywords. So by using 3 keywords. So we have var, we have let, and we have const. Variables can be declared by using the 3 keywords var, let, and const. We have 3 variables. So variable can be declared by using these 3 keywords var, let, and constant. What is difference between them is important for us. What is var, what is let, and what is const? Actually, so var is it defines function scope variable. So function scope variable. Function scope variable means you can declare and access from any location in function. You can declare and access from any location inside the function. You can declare anywhere, you can access from anywhere inside the function. That is called function scope variable. That means I will show you here. So suppose I'm defining, this is function f1 is a function. I have var x equal to 10. That is initializing x. And I am checking a condition. We can write like this. So this is declaring. After that, it is rendering. And I'm writing a condition. If x equal to 10, then it will enter into this block. Remember, this is a block inside the function. In this block, we are declaring y is equal to 20. We are initializing that. Initializing, declaring anything you can do. Now outside here, I am accessing document.write. So x is equal to plus x and y is equal to plus y. So that means the value of x and y. And I will put here a br. So for line break, just roughly. Now we are printing the value of x and y. And remember, so y is declared inside this block. But you are declaring by using var. That means it is accessible outside the block also. Because in the function, you can access from anywhere. So it is possible. So now you can see x and y are working fine. So y is suppose some 30, then it is working fine. So the point is, function scope variable means you can declare anywhere in the function and you can access and use from any location inside the function. And very important is var allows declaring, var allows rendering, and var also allows initialization. It allows all the three. You can see here we are declaring. So here we are declaring, here we are rendering, and here we are initializing. So var allows all the three. Initialization, it will allow all the three. Declaring, rendering, and initialization. That is what the ability of var. And another point is, actually var allows shadowing. This is important word. Shadowing is nothing but, shadowing is the process of declaring same name identifier again. Declaring same name identifier again is called shadowing. That means, for example, here you see y is equal to 30, var y equal to 30. I said here y is equal to 40. This is not declaring, this is rendering. That is okay, it is possible. Rendering is possible. Now it is rendered with this new value. That means y will be 40. So y will be 40. So that means here y will be 40. But I will save this. Y will be 40. You can see the y is 40. But here I am using again var y. This is problem in many languages. You cannot redeclare again the same name identifier. But var allows to redeclare again. We can newly allocate the memory again for that particular variable. Again that variable. This mechanism is called shadowing. Shadowing is allowed for variables. Only when they are declared by using var. I said some 50. So again you are declaring. This is called actually shadowing. And you can see that it is working fine. So var allows shadowing. Shadowing means it allows you to redeclare any number of times, Another one, where allows hoisting also. Where allows hoisting. What is hoisting is nothing but, generally hoisting is a mechanism. I will show you here what is hoisting. Suppose I have strict mode x equal to 10 and document.write x equal to plus x. This is invalid. You can see that it will not work. Why? Because so you are in strict mode, it is mandatory to declare x. But see, I am declaring x at the end like this. Generally, in majority of programming languages, this is invalid. That means you are trying to use a variable before declaring. It is not possible. But in JavaScript, it is possible and it is called hoisting. So it is possible in JavaScript. If you are declaring with where, it is possible. And this mechanism is called hoisting. Hoisting means the declaration need not to be before using. The declaration can be anywhere. The compiler will go and pick up it and you will use it. So that means it's not mandatory that variable declaration must be before using it. It can be anywhere. That is called hoisting. That means here x is hoisted. And you can see that it is hoisting. It is working fine, no problem. But many programming languages will not allow that actually. So they will not allow hoisting. But JavaScript allows hoisting, but only for where. By using where, you can handle hoisting. So where is used as a function scope variable. It can be declared, it can be rendered, it can be initialized, it allows shadowing, it allows hoisting. Then what is let and const? What is difference between where, let and const? That we will see in our next session, right? Tomorrow we'll continue. Tomorrow we will see all the differences between them and we will see the examples using with all these type of declarations and options, right? That we'll see in next session. Tomorrow we'll continue with this, okay? Right.